Picture this. You're a merchant in Cairo, the summer of 1324. You wake up one morning, walk to the market, and there's a problem. Gold is everywhere, not symbolically, literally everywhere. People in the streets are spending gold like it's nothing. Beggars are getting gold coins. Servants are wearing gold bracelets. And the price of literally everything you sell, your bread, your wool, your spices, has dropped by a quarter overnight. What you don't know yet is that a few miles outside the city, a man has arrived with 60,000 people in his caravan. 12,000 of them are slaves carrying gold bars. 80 camels are loaded with gold dust, somewhere between 18 and 38 tons of the stuff. And for 3 months, he's just giving it away. By the time he leaves, you're not richer, you're poorer. The Cairo economy will take over a decade to recover from the visit of this one guy. His name is Mansa Musa, and to this day, by almost any reasonable measure, he is probably the richest human being who has ever lived. Richer than Rockefeller, richer than Bezos, richer in real economic power within his world than any tech billionaire alive today. But here's the part nobody tells you. The thing that made him that rich, it wasn't the gold, it was something far smarter, a business model so elegant that today, Visa, MasterCard, Google, and AWS are using a version of it, 700 years later. So in the next minutes, we're going to take this empire apart, piece by piece. And by the end, you'll see exactly how a 14th century African emperor figured out the playbook that runs the modern economy. Welcome back to the channel. This isn't a biography, this is an autopsy. A strategic and economic autopsy of one of the most successful and most misunderstood empire builders in history. Because here's the truth. Mansa Musa wasn't lucky. He didn't stumble into gold. He didn't just inherit a kingdom and ride the wave. He built a machine. And the way he built it answers 3 questions that should fascinate anyone who cares about strategy, business, or power. First, how do you get fabulously rich from a resource you don't actually own? Second, how does someone who could literally print money make the worst financial mistake of his life? And third, why does the most powerful economic system of its time collapse in less than 50 years after his death? Stick with me, because the answers tell you more about modern capitalism than most business school courses. Let's go. To get Mansa Musa, you need to understand the world he's operating in, the 14th century. Europe is just starting to crawl out of feudalism. The Italian cities, Florence, Venice, Genoa, are figuring out something new called banking. They're minting coins, the florin and the ducat, that are about to become the dollars of the medieval world. But there's a problem, and a serious one. To mint gold coins, you need gold. And Europe is fresh out. Local mines are exhausted. Constantinople hoards what's left. The Crusades have drained royal treasuries dry. So where does the gold come from? According to economic historians, roughly 2/3 of the gold flowing into European mints between 1250 and 1450 comes out of West Africa, specifically out of an empire we today call Mali. Let that sink in. The Italian Renaissance, the banking system, the merchant princes, the whole foundation of modern finance, is being funded indirectly by an African empire most Europeans have never even heard of. And that empire is sitting on the most beautiful geographic arbitrage in human history, the gold-salt equation. Here's the thing about West Africa that's hard to wrap your head around. In the tropical regions where Mali grows its food, salt is rarer than gold. There are no salt mines down south. People are literally dying without enough sodium in their diet. Meanwhile, in the Sahara, up north, there's salt everywhere. Whole mountains of it in a place called Tagaza, where workers carve it out in slabs. And further south, in regions called Bambouk and Bouré, gold is just in the ground. People dig it up from riverbeds. They literally have so much of it that it's not particularly valuable to them. What they need is salt. So you have 2 resources, worthless apart, priceless together. And between them, geographically, right in the middle, sits Mali. If you control the roads between salt going south and gold coming north, you don't need to own a single mine. You don't need to lift a shovel. You just need to be the road. The silent trade, and what it teaches us. Now here's where it gets weird. The people who actually mine the gold, a group called the Wangara, they don't trust outsiders. So they invented something historians call the silent trade. A merchant caravan arrives at the edge of Wangara territory. They lay out their salt, their cloth, their tools. They beat a drum and then they leave. The Wangara come out, look at the goods and place a pile of gold next to each item. Then they retreat. The merchants come back. If they like the deal, they take the gold and go. If not, they beat the drum again. The Wangara come out and add more gold. And so on, until they have a deal. Two cultures trading billions of dollars worth of gold over centuries, and they never see each other's faces. Why? Because if the merchants ever followed them home, the Wangara would just stop producing gold. And we know this for a fact, because more than one sultan tried to send spies. Every single time, gold production stopped for years. That's an extraordinary lesson, and I want you to hold on to it. You can extract enormous wealth from a system you do not and cannot fully control. Mansa Musa is about to perfect this idea. Uber doesn't own cars. Airbnb doesn't own hotels. Mansa Musa didn't own the gold mines, but he made the system pay him anyway. Cairo, 1324. 12 years into his reign, Musa decides to make the pilgrimage to Mecca, the Hajj. Every Muslim with the means is supposed to do it once in their life, and Musa, being possibly the richest man on earth, has the means. But Musa doesn't just go, he goes big, because in his mind this trip serves three purposes. 1. Religious duty. 2. Legitimacy with the wider Muslim world. And 3, and this is the one he gets dangerously wrong, it's a marketing campaign. He wants the world to know who he is. So he packs the most spectacular caravan in recorded history, 60,000 people, 12,000 slaves, each carrying a 2-kilogram bar of pure gold, hundreds of camels loaded with gold dust, a traveling court of officials, scholars, family, servants. And when this caravan rolls into Cairo, Musa does what he thinks a generous, righteous Muslim emperor should do. He starts handing out gold to beggars, to merchants, to officials of the Egyptian Sultan, to fellow pilgrims, for 3 solid months. What he didn't know about supply and demand. Now here's the thing. In the 14th century, nobody had written down the laws of monetary economics yet. We wouldn't formalize this stuff until Irving Fisher in the 20th century. But the laws were operating anyway. Fisher's equation goes like this. M times V equals P times Q. Money supply times velocity equals prices times the quantity of goods. Translation, if you suddenly dump way more money into an economy without producing more stuff, prices have to go up. That's inflation. That's how it works. That's how it has always worked. Musa just multiplied the gold supply of Cairo by something like a factor of 3 in 3 months. The result? Gold loses 10 to 25% of its purchasing power. Prices skyrocket. The Egyptian merchants who got a windfall in week 1 are getting wiped out by inflation in week 6. The poor, who didn't get any of the gold, can't afford bread. The Egyptian economy doesn't recover for over a decade. Al-Umari, an Egyptian chronicler who visits 12 years later, writes, I'm paraphrasing, "You can still see the damage. He destroyed our markets with his generosity. Now here's the part that should keep you up at night if you're an investor." Musa, on his way back to Mali, realizes what he's done. Every gold transaction in the entire Mediterranean is now more expensive for him because the gold he's still carrying is worth less, and his caravan is running low on supplies. So what does the richest man in the world have to do? He has to borrow gold from Egyptian merchants at rates some sources estimate at hundreds of percent. The chroniclers don't bury this. They laugh about it. The man who could have bought all of Cairo 3 months earlier is now in debt to the merchants of Cairo because he didn't understand his own market. Here's the lesson, and it's brutal. Wealth is not power. Mastery of an economic system is power. And on this one trip, Mansa Musa learned that lesson the hard way. He learned that flooding a market with your own currency doesn't make you stronger. It makes you weaker. He learned that the Egyptian merchants, who actually understood their market, were the real winners of his big show. And to his enormous credit, he came home from that trip a completely different leader. The Musa who walks back into Mali in 1325 is not the same Musa who left, because in his months in Cairo, between the disastrous gold dumps and the diplomatic banquets, he was watching, studying. He saw something that humbled him. He saw that the Egyptian sultans weren't necessarily richer than him, but their wealth was structured. They had a written tax code. They had a permanent civil service, the Diwan. They had universities, hospitals, libraries, a banking system run by professional money changers called sarifs. Their empire ran when the Sultan was awake, and it ran when the Sultan was asleep. Mali didn't have that. Mali ran on the Mansa. If the Mansa was strong, the empire was strong. If the Mansa was weak, the empire was weak. There was no system. And right there, somewhere on the road between Cairo and Timbuktu, Musa has what we'd call today his founder moment. Here's how I'd phrase it for him. An empire that depends on its leader is a startup. An empire that runs without its leader is an institution. The difference is the difference between 100 years and 1,000. So he does something genuinely remarkable. He stops thinking about gold as wealth. He starts thinking about gold as fuel. Fuel for building the system that would make wealth automatic. On his way back, he convinces one of the great minds of the Muslim world, an Andalusian scholar and architect named Abu Ishaq al-Sahili, to come with him to Mali. He pays him reportedly 200 kilograms of gold. That's an absolutely insane signing bonus. That's a $10 million tech transfer in modern terms. And he doesn't stop there. He brings back judges, theologians, doctors, engineers, mapmakers, accountants, entire libraries. He is, in effect, converting his liquid assets into human capital. The same thing a smart founder does when they stop paying themselves dividends and start reinvesting in R&D. And that decision is what turns the next 12 years of his reign into one of the most extraordinary periods of empire building in world history. Here's a question that unlocks the whole empire. Gold travels through 5 hands. The Wangara miners, the Mali traders, the Mali cities, the Saharan caravans, the European mints. Where is Mansa Musa in that chain? He doesn't mine the gold. He doesn't strike the coins. He doesn't actually make or sell anything. He just owns the road the gold has to travel on and taxes every step in between. That's not a king. That's a platform business. And it runs on 3 pillars. Pillar 1, tax the flow, not the source. Musa never taxes the miners. He taxes movement. Every nugget above a certain size belongs to him by law. Every caravan crossing his borders pays customs. Every vassal king pays tribute. And he owns the salt mines at Tagaza outright. Medieval oil, basically. 4 streams, 1 army of 100,000 men. 0 gold mines nationalized. Pillar 2, own the nodes, not the network. Musa figures out that in a trade network, the value isn't in the flow, it's in the choke points. So he grabs them: Timbuktu, Gao, Jenne, Walata, Tagaza. Every caravan has to go through him. If that sounds familiar, it should. Visa doesn't make products, they tax payments. Google doesn't make websites, they tax attention. AWS doesn't make software, they tax compute. Singapore doesn't make oil, they tax the shipping lane. Every single one of these is running Mansa Musa's playbook. He just ran it 700 years earlier. And here's the genius bit. He pours money into securing the roads. Looks like a cost. Actually, a compounding investment. Safer roads bring more merchants. More merchants bring more tax revenue. More revenue pays for safer roads. Ibn Battuta visits a few years after Musa's death and reports he can travel alone, with valuables, across the whole empire in the 14th century. That's not a kingdom. That's a moat. Pillar 3, build the brand. The Hajj broke his finances. But 50 years later, the Catalan Atlas of 1375 shows up, and right there, in the middle of West Africa, is Mansa Musa with his crown and his gold nugget, advertised to every king and merchant in Europe. Suddenly, the risk premium on West African trade drops. Merchants flow in. Scholars from Cairo, Damascus, and Fez start showing up in Timbuktu. Human capital follows the brand. Mansa Musa invented nation branding. The campaign paid off for 2 centuries. All right, time to make this useful. Lesson 1. Unstructured wealth destroys value. Cairo 1324 is the original cautionary tale of what happens when you dump cash into a system you don't understand. You see it everywhere now. VCs in 2021 destroyed startups by overfunding them. Lottery winners go bankrupt in 5 years. Same mechanism. Sudden wealth without structure isn't a blessing. It's a stressor on a system that can't handle it. The principle: power doesn't come from how much wealth you have. It comes from how much your wealth can do without destroying its own value. Lesson 2. Control the flow. Never own the asset. This is the big one. Take this with you. Apple's real money isn't phones. It's the App Store, a tax on every transaction in their ecosystem. Microsoft's growth engine isn't software. It's Azure, Google, Stripe, Visa, AWS. Every one of them is running Musa's 1325 playbook. Don't make the thing. Be the road the thing has to travel on. If you're building anything for the long term, ask yourself one question. What's the choke point in this market? What node does every transaction have to pass through? Find it. Become it. Lesson 3. The intangible moat outlives the physical one. Mansa Musa has been dead for nearly 700 years. His gold is gone. His empire is gone. 2 of his 3 capitals are in ruins. But he's still here. We're still talking about him. Because he made 3 investments that don't decay. Buildings, the Jingwereber Mosque is still standing. Knowledge, the Timbuktu manuscripts are still being studied. A story, the Catalan Atlas kept Mali alive in the European imagination for 2 centuries. The principle, physical wealth erodes. Reputational, intellectual, and narrative wealth compounds. Coca-Cola could lose every factory tomorrow and rebuild in 18 months on the name alone. That's a moat you can't burn down. If you take one thing from this video, take this. The most durable form of wealth is the kind you can't put in a vault. Mansa Musa was probably the richest human being who ever lived. But that's not why he matters. He matters because he understood, earlier than almost anyone, that unstructured wealth destroys itself, that the smartest place to stand is on top of the flow, not the source, and that the wealth that lasts is the kind you can't touch. But there's a darker lesson, the one that explains why his empire collapsed so fast. Mansa Musa was a brilliant operator. He never quite became an institution builder. The system ran through him, and when he was gone, the system was gone. The hardest thing any founder ever has to do is make himself unnecessary. Mansa Musa got 99% of the way there. The last 1%, building the empire that no longer needs you, he didn't finish. And it cost him 1,000 years of legacy. If this changed how you see empires, subscribe, like, and tell me in the comments which model wins today. Musa's tax the flow, or the Caesar Napoleon occupy and extract. And who's next? The Medici? Drop the name. See you in the next one.